Life is inherently risky, but the one risk that you should avoid at all costs is the risk of doing nothing. You're watching Expensive Lessons with me, Wavinya. Don't go away. You're watching Expensive Lessons, and with me today is Colleta Macharia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Wavinya.
This expensive lesson that you're here to share with us, how much did it cost you?
Well, in terms of money, let's say it cost $10,000.
Wow.
Years back, yes.
$10,000, which is, I mean, if we're doing the math in Kenya shillings, more than 1 million Kenya shillings. That's the lesson that we're hearing about today. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Expensive Lessons, and with me, my guest is Colleta Macharia, who's here to share with us her story, her experience, that costs her. This lesson cost her $10,000, which is, more than 1 million shillings. Please start from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. So this was an investment that we did with some firm that was doing dealing in commodities like coffee, oil, and gold.
Oh, okay.
And so this person that we were working with was an agent of the firm whom we had been referred to by some friends.
Yes.
And at the time we were living outside the country, and it seemed like the perfect investment because it was not management intensive.
Yeah.
And so we got introduced to this gentleman, and so it involved setting up, setting up your account, your virtual account, and then you can monitor, how the trading is going and how your investment is growing.
Wow. So when was this? How far back?
Oh, I want to say around 2000, maybe 2012, 2000. Yeah, thereabout.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a few years back.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking virtual business almost 10 years ago. Wow.
Yes, because this farm was based in the US.
Okay.
And so it's like how you would trade, for example, in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Yeah. And so we put in $2,000 to start with, and we were set up and we were monitoring and we were watching it grow on a daily basis. You see, okay, trading happened by close of market.
Yeah.
This is what the prices were, and this is what your investment is worth.
Yeah.
And so after some couple of months or so, we thought, okay, this thing is doing well.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead, because we had been looking for, somewhere to invest. Why don't we go ahead and boost this?
Yeah.
And so we did, and we put in another $8,000.
Wow. So you initially started with $2,000, which was what, about 200,000 shillings.
Yes.
And then now we're watching and it's growing. So was it a graph that what were you looking at, on the computer?
Yeah, so you see the graph of how today you can see, let's say if you are on say 12,000 yesterday.
Yeah.
Today you'll see it going to maybe 12,080, 12,100. The following day, maybe it could go down to 12,050, like that.
Yeah.
So the downs were really slight, and the ups were, so it was, it was moving up.
So who had introduced you to this investment?
Friends of ours who are also investing, and they had been at it for a while.
Oh, okay.
And that's why we had the confidence, because we knew that since they were in it, they were, they weren't lying. And I'm not saying, it wasn't a scam really. It was just, it's just the nature of business, right?
Yeah.
And investment. And so we walked that journey with them.
Yeah. So you had done your due diligence, then they introduced you to it. You
Yes.
saw.
Yeah.
The company probably had a profile. You talked to a few people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we asked a lot of questions. Yeah. So we were confident when we were going in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one day we just woke up and noticed that, it's starting to dip. It's starting to go down. And I want to, I don't know if this should be on because I'm not exactly sure, but I seem to think that it was during that time of, what do you call this? The Murdoch, Manenos and whatever.
Yeah.
So there is a time when there was, like a bit of a depression, even in the global economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, we noticed that there was a dip and a dip and a dip, and, and before we knew it, whatever we had invested, had really gone down.
You know what? Hold that thought. Let's take a break because now this story is getting sweeter. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll be hearing more about this expensive lesson from Colleta.
To get Ebenezer by Jane Allaire as your Skiza tune, SMS the word Skiza 88300023 and send to 811. Hope Skiza, spreading the hope.
Ebenezer, you've been our God. Ebenezer, 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 oh, Ebenezer, you've been our God. This far.
Welcome back. You're watching Expensive Lessons. My guest today is Colleta Macharia. She's been sharing with us her story of how her and her husband invested in a commodity business that was virtual in terms of how you are monitoring it. Initially, you went in slowly and with about 200,000 Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
And then it got sweet. It started increasing, and then you increased the money to $1 million.
Yes.
And then the curve stopped going up.
Yes, at some point it stopped going up. It's started wiggling,
Yes.
and before we knew it, it was going down.
So
Right.
so now going down, it moved from what, 10
It moved from
or
10,000
12?
and
How much had you made so far?
I don't remember the details of
Yeah.
exactly how much, but I do remember that it went so low that we decided, no, this is not working.
Yeah.
And so we just decided to get out of it. All right. And so for me there, when I look back, when you go into business, when you make an investment, or when you're trading or whatever, the nature of business is that you will gain or you will lose.
Yeah.
And so I think the important thing is to realize that not to be too married to the gains, that you forget that the nature of business is that sometimes you win and sometimes you lose.
That sounds now like some of the lessons that now you started learning.
Exactly.
But before we get to those lessons, so when it went down and you said you want to come out, did you come out with anything? At least did you make
we
recover
probably
then one-
secured some of the money,
Okay.
some of the investment, but not in the way we had initially thought. It didn't
Yeah.
go the way we initially thought.
Yeah.
And
So you lost money.
and so we
Yeah.
lost money in the process.
Yeah.
But here is the thing: when we decided to get out,
Yeah.
perhaps we got out prematurely. Perhaps we could have watched the cycle. Go down and then come up again, and then because I think we didn't even stay more than 6 months in it. So that's the other lesson, that investments and business, there are cycles.
Yeah.
Right. And so sometimes you can be so discouraged when you see it going down and you get out prematurely, and if you had just waited a little bit, you probably could have gained.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So having gone through that process, and in my mind, I'm thinking you had already been thinking long term. You'd already been thinking, okay, now we found our investment, and here we've burnt our fingers, so to
Yes.
speak. Did you ever invest again? Did it? How did it affect you?
Of course, we invested. Afterwards, you learn the lessons, and you you also what shall I say? You upskill yourself. You learn different things, and so yes, we've since invested in different aspects. And the beauty again is what was the good thing with that is that we didn't invest all we had. All right, so not putting your eggs in one basket is another lesson, right?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've gone ahead and done other investments, and they've with that mindset now that it's cyclical, it can go down, it can go up, and hold on, don't be in a hurry to get out. It's been good so far.
Yeah.
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 Wow. I like that. Don't put all your baskets,
Or-
all
or
your eggs
in one basket.
in one basket.
Yeah.
That's actually an important lesson, because for some people that could have been their entire livelihood.
Exactly.
And then you're really staring at this screen, hoping that
Exactly.
it can start going up. So what, after that, I'm assuming that you probably came back now to Kenya. What are some of the other lessons that, because of now this initial risk that you took, that you either as an individual or as a family have learned?
Yeah, so of course that's the 10,000 is one that you can quantify in terms of money and say this is what went in and this is what came out, and that's not what we expected.
Yeah.
But there are other lessons. For example, the most profound for me is the risk that I took, because I did mention that we were living outside of the country then, and we did live out for 11 years. And the most profound lesson for me was the risk that I took because we value family and we wanted to be together. And when we went out, it was because my husband had gotten an opportunity outside of Kenya.
Yeah.
And so we went to live in West Africa. And after that, we lived in Burundi, in Zambia, in Ethiopia, and finally came back. So that risk of just leaving my job and leaving my networks and, sort of putting a pause on my career.
Yeah.
It was expensive. Yeah. Because initially I thought I'll leave, I'll resign here and then I'll go find a similar job in the next country. But that's not how it happened. Those
Yeah.
opportunities were not easy to come by and they were not even comparable. But the lesson that I learned was the importance of self-discovery, self-awareness, understanding that you're not one thing or another. All right? No, sorry. Understanding that you're not just one thing. You are one thing and another and another. And so before I left, I was an accountant. All right. And for me, that was, that was my career. That was the thing that I was going to grow in and all that. But then with time, I came to realize that my job as an accountant, that career that I initially had was fantastic. I enjoyed it when I was in it, but it was never meant to be my destination.
Oh, wow.
All right. It's part of the journey,
Yeah.
but not the destination. And so as I sat there and began to ask myself, who am I without this job title? What does life look like in this space? Because I went in a supporting capacity. There were some moments of reflection, some tears in the
Yeah.
process because of, the frustration. I hadn't really quite been prepared for that kind of life. But the learning was that when you let go and embrace this journey, and when you realize that, that scripture that says we are fearfully and wonderfully made?
Yes, Psalm
It
139.
made Psalm 139.
Yes.
It made so much sense because now, as I began to speak with God, as I begin to do that process of self-discovery and reflecting on the different things that God had put along my path, the exposure, and even the gifts and talents. Wow, I discovered that fearfully and wonderfully made person, and the things that God has in store for me in terms of using the talents, and most importantly, helping other people in the process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the accounting profession is still you.
Yes.
And it's still, but it's a part of it. Like there's a lot more about Colleta than just the
Exactly.
accounting part. And I love that because these these lessons we're learning along life. Because like I started with a quote about life is a risk.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So even this accountant put in $10,000 into a venture. It didn't work, but that didn't define you. That's not who you are.
Exactly.
And then now you're in this self-discovery part, and you're discovering that the profession, accounting, there's more to you than that. And
Exactly.
then, so who is this Colleta? Current
Wow.
one.
So this current Colleta is, and I find a lot of joy in just being Colleta, not necessarily married to titles and, and functions and all that.
Yeah.
And over and above that, I am a coach.
Yeah.
I'm supporting people with regards to their own life journeys.
Yeah.
All right, their careers, their leadership journeys. I'm working with them in that. I'm training in personal skills, and I'm an author.
Yeah.
So out of all these experiences, the dividends that risk paid is that now with the exposure, with the learning, and with my own journey and tears, I got a framework, the game plan framework,
Yeah.
that helps me support other people in their life and career journeys.
Wow.
And so I wrote that book. And most recently, I have started a podcast that's called Work in Progress.
Wow.
Because why? We are a work in progress.
Wow.
Every day you live, every experience you get, every learning, you are progressing and you are growing from glory to glory.
Wow.
Okay, so earlier on I was talking about the $10,000 school fees that we paid in the School of Life. And for me, the important thing is realizing that in life, really, life lessons don't come from textbooks. They come from the experiences that you go through. So even as we were monitoring our investment and seeing the graph, going lower than we had anticipated or than we had desired, the instinct was, you know what? Let's get out of this investment. And sure, we did. But the lesson there is that investment, business, there are cycles to everything. And at the very first sight of things going down, it's not always the best thing to exit. Sometimes it's good to wait and watch and see what the cycle looks like, because if you wait a little longer, you might come to an upward trend and still end up gaining. So the lesson there, don't be too quick to quit. And the other lesson is that the nature of business and the nature of life is that there will be ups and downs. Don't be too married to the ups and forget that the downs also present wonderful lessons to learn and wonderful experiences to reflect upon and grow in. The other lesson, of course, is the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And thankfully, we didn't. And so it's important to diversify your investments, diversify where you put in your stuff, so that if one goes down, you still have the others to gain from. And from the other, which I consider to be actually the bigger life lesson of taking the risk of leaving work and going in a supporting capacity to join my husband in West Africa and in the different places where we lived for 11 years, is that, sometimes we can be holding on to something so much. Like if I had held on to that job, yes, I would have continued. I would probably have grown in that role and grown in that career ladder. But the truth is that there were other things waiting for me that were more pleasant, more fulfilling, and more fun. Because much as I enjoyed my career as an accountant, I am enjoying my career right now many times over as a coach that helps people in their leadership and career journeys, and as a trainer in personal skills, and as an author and a podcaster. I mean, those are just really fulfilling. And the cream on the cake is that helping people and seeing somebody move from point A to point B, grow and become the best version of themselves, there is no telling just how much fulfillment that is, which I believe is the purpose that God has for me upon the face of this earth. And so for me, the big lesson there is that sometimes we can reach a place and think that is our destination, but really it's not. It's part of the journey. So when you get to that space and you start questioning and things are probably not going the way you want them to go, or you're being called in a different direction, it pays to take time to pray about it, reflect, consult, work with a mentor or a coach, so that by the time you are making a decision, it is an informed decision. If it's a risk, it's a calculated risk, and eventually it will pay off.
It sounds like life gave you lemons and you actually made a lemonade.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Many expensive lessons coming from Colleta. And I guess I can close with that quote, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, make something out of it.
When life gives you lemon, find someone who has some sugar and another who has water, mix it up and make lemonade.
Okay.
Yeah. Better still, find some ice, add on to it, drink a cold lemonade and enjoy life.
Wow. Colleta, thank you for sharing your story with us. I mean, definitely learned something from you that when life gives you lemons, perhaps you can find someone else with sugar and someone else with water and mix it together, make some lemonade, probably find someone else with ice and enjoy the drink.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been watching Expensive Lessons. Have a great week and God bless.